What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Mouse Clicks and Joysticks, episode 2. Ah, Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Took me half a second to realize that you used my legal name, my government.
Yeah, because why not? I'm
Nah, why
Mike,
not?
you're Chris. If you
Yeah.
guys don't know, I'm Mike, he's Chris, aka Black Magus, and YoruStrix. We are your hosts of this podcast where we talk about gaming and issues revolving around the gaming industry.
Yep.
So new week, so new games, kinda. Mass Effect Andromeda is out there. I know you've played it a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
What are your impressions on that one?
All right, so I'm just gonna go from the top. I'm gonna need him to get a better character creator. Their character creator is pretty bad. I'm sorry. In my opinion, like the idea is to me that once I got in the game, I could tell that my character was the created one and everybody else wasn't. Like it was really easy to tell which which was the character that I made. It stuck out like a sore thumb. Beyond that, the mechanics are so far pretty interesting. I'm still super early on. Like right at the beginning of the game. I put in maybe a couple hours, 2-3 hours. So far I haven't had any of the wonky animations that everybody has been, memeing the game for. But it seems fun. I still can't aim with the controller to save my life. So I'm not going to even speak about difficulty because it helps when you're able to actually hit the enemies that you're shooting at. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in particular about. I'm going to be playing some more of it tonight, so maybe next time we talk, I'll have a little bit more to say. The story, I mean, every game story in the first 2 hours is generally like mostly the same. So I'm not going to cover that either. It's an interesting product, and if you're wondering how it compares, I've played Mass Effect 1, most of 2, never got around to playing 3. Was not the biggest Mass Effect fan.
It was cool. I mean, everybody lost their shit over the ending because it wasn't.
Yeah, and when I say I'm not the biggest fan, I just mean it's not like my top. It's not going to be my favorite game. Like it's a good series of video games.
Yeah, I mean, nothing. You know me, I don't find anything wrong with it. Of course, I'm sure there's people like, "What? He's not a Mass Effect fan?" Like, guys, not everybody likes everything. Again, you're listening to two guys who don't really fuck with Bethesda games, so we don't necessarily. Sorry, but I'm just saying we don't necessarily go with the flow of the crowd.
Look, as long as it's not
their own opinions,
I fuck with Bethesda games as long as it's Dishonored or a game not.
So you fuck with Bethesda game.
Or I guess games, or it's not a game, or it's not one of their main entries in the last. Like,
so as long as they don't produce it themselves, you're good.
Because like Morrowind and Fallout 1 and Fallout. Oh wait, no, they weren't produced. But never mind. Yep, fuck Bethesda. Yep, you're right. I had to think about that for a second.
Basically, as long as they don't work on it, like if Obsidian or some other.
That. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, it's basically anything that they published that they didn't produce, you're fine with. Because you like Doom, don't you?
The new Doom was good. The new Doom was good.
Guess who didn't work? Guess who didn't produce that?
All right, hold on. I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this list of stuff. All right. I liked Brink, even though Brink has a lot of issues.
They didn't produce that.
Rage was meh. Like it wasn't.
They didn't produce that.
The Evil Within was solid.
They didn't produce that.
The Wolfenstein games, like a lot of the stuff they've made have been pretty solid.
They didn't produce that. They weren't the fucking developers. That's what I'm saying. They developed the Skyrim games. They've developed most of the current first person.
Please tell me this.
Fallout games, with the exception of New Vegas. New Vegas was Obsidian.
I mean, let me not even talk about the fact that having watched all of the Fallout.
Oh, and of course, like what else is there? But yeah, of course, Doom, the new Quake that's coming out. Those are all like id properties that they're publishing. They own Yeah, there's a company now.
God, that really makes me sad now as I look at, like, I'm looking through and it's like, yeah, they're just the publishers, and I'm just like, what? Bethesda, please.
Yeah, you didn't really.
Actually, Bethesda. Oh yeah, because you right, Arcane did Dishonored. I mean, as a publisher, they're doing a pretty good job. I just don't like the things that they actually make.
But when they put their hands on it, you're just like, because I'm looking at like this stuff. Yeah, it's.
I mean, they make the games they make just haven't changed in the last like decade or so. It's fine.
Yeah.
Right? It's fine.
Hold on, let me see.
Bethesda Game Studios. What has Bethesda Game Studios made? The thing, like you said, the things that have the words "The Elder Scrolls" or Fallout.
Yeah, they do the Elder Scrolls and the Fallout.
From Morrowind till now. Got it. Yeah, they can hold on to all of that. Maybe Morrowind. Maybe I give them Morrowind. I get the feeling that like everybody's gonna like, huh? Why would you like look?
I mean, sometimes people it's like that. Okay, let's be real. I mean, some people their name rings stronger than it may.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like when somebody says BioWare to me, and they're like BioWare, and I'll say Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah,
before I will say Mass Effect. Like it's just me as a person.
I think like tons of games. I think Neverwinter Nights. I think Baldur's Gate. I think Knights of the Old Republic. They've done a lot in my mind. It's just that everybody all of a sudden knows them. As hell, people forget they're the Dragon Age studio.
It's
like Mass Effect is the only thing people.
But I think that's also a good sign of a developer, though. Like if you can have multiple games that people like recognize you for, that's really good. Oh yeah, I mean you could go back. I'm surprised you didn't say Baldur's Gate.
No, I did. Baldur's Gate was one of the first I can think of that I actually played on PC.
Oh yeah, you said Neverwinter Nights and Baldur's Gate. Yeah, sorry. I'm deaf. Don't mind me.
No, it's fine. But no, I'm really looking at this list and
Jade Empire and Dragon Age and like
like real talk though on Bethesda. Yeah.
Yeah,
you're a really great publisher.
Thank you. That's what I really realized. I was just looking at my list. I was like,
You're a really great publisher.
Especially in the 2010s. Like you have been on point pretty much.
Because I mean, look who's doing Prey. It's Arcane. It's the people who did Dishonored.
Which is why it's going to be good. I mean, who would ever say that?
Yeah. Oh. So we probably gained more ire, but it's fine. I'm used to getting.
Look, that's what you need to make the headline of this because controversy sells it. Bethesda sucks. Worst developer ever. That's what
I won't say that. I just don't necessarily enjoy your games. I understand why people do, but I just am not that big of it. Even Fallout Shelter, it's kind of sad because I actually played Fallout Shelter on my phone and I found myself like, yo, this shit is janky for a.
I say this to everybody. I don't play games. I play 2 games on my phone.
No, the only reason I brought it up because who produced it?
Oh,
but that's the game studios,
and people love it too.
It has good things about it, but it just
it has good things about it. Bethesda are our saviors. Please, Bethesda overlords, please continue. Look. I guess send beyond game development. We're not going to send out review copies till the day the game comes out because everyone should experience it together. That's not how video games work, Bethesda.
Media. I mean, it's like the argument people made about movies. Movie companies don't say you got to go buy a ticket to review the movie, but okay. All right.
So yeah, that was our Bethesda. I feel like this is going to end up being a recurring thing.
No, it won't because after Prey comes out, they don't have anything. No, shit. Quake Champion. Well, but no, those are 2 games that they didn't produce. So, yeah, I think after this, pretty much anything mentioned with Bethesda, they're going to get praise through, through the fact that they're associated with
Don't worry, at
Arcane and id.
Don't worry, at E3.
By the way, Quake Champions looks good.
I've not seen any of it.
It's definitely a callback to Quake.
Hey, I'm gonna be horrible at it, like I am.
Yeah, I am, but it's Quake.
But don't worry, if you are missing out on Bethesda, we'll probably get Elder Scrolls 6.
Oh, announced at E3. Yeah, so let's wait till E3 when they do their conference.
I will bet, because they had Fallout and they haven't heard from the. Oh wait, no, we got Elder Scrolls 5 last year, so yeah, it's time for Elder Scrolls 6.
Yeah, they just did the remastered, so we'll get 6. Because Fallout was in 2015. So yeah, about time for them to drop one of their games. So
yeah.
All right. Well,
but back to what we were talking about. Mass Effect. So far, a lot of the one thing that I can say, if I decide I didn't like something, I don't like the angle. And this is really just a nitpicky and personal thing that has no real effect on gameplay. I don't like the camera angle they use for conversations now. In some parts of the conversation, it's like an over-the-shoulder cam that to me just feels really awkward. And like I think the purpose is to make you feel like you're your character and they're speaking to you, but it does not come across that way. And maybe that's just me. But that was one thing that I noticed in like the first 2 hours that I was just like, can I just like go back to the usual BioWare people are standing next to each other having a conversation? And they do that camera angle every so often. And that was the only things in the first 2 hours. The jump jet is cool.
Yeah, the combat's cool.
Character creator, it seems cool. It's I don't know, like until I get really into it, it's really hard to talk about a character creator in terms of powers and abilities, I think, until you really get into the meat and potatoes of like the skill tree and the systems there. Because you don't know how much like making your character actually matters until you start to look at like the skill tree and you can see how much actual time you can put into each one.
Well, I'll be interested in seeing what it's like once I get the goddamn game. Because if you follow me on Twitter, you'll know that I had to have a nice conversation with Amazon.com today. Now, if you're an Amazon Prime member, you know that Amazon touts the fact that, hey, Prime members get release date delivery for games. Of course, they always say it's certain games, but it's generally the big AAA games that it is, which Mass Effect Andromeda is, which they were listed as a guaranteed release date delivery. Well, I ain't getting no delivery because they never shipped my shit. So today I decided, yeah, I am angry. Because you pay for a service, you should get what you pay for, right?
Nah.
Well.
Now, I'm going to be real. So funnily enough, I'm just going to, because this might make you madder, I'm just going to do a very quick anecdote. I ordered a pair of headphones on Sunday night, and they said they shipped them Monday morning, and they ended up on my front steps Monday afternoon.
Yeah, see, fuck all that shit. I ordered Mass Effect on February 21st. You had plenty of goddamn time to see that order and to get it prepared.
Now, my thing is, I'm going to go into we can dive into this a little bit. What I loved best about the situation is that, I don't know what time you sent the tweet out. I think it was like mid-morning on Tuesday when, like, usually the post office would be out delivering stuff or whoever would be delivering your product. And Amazon messaged you back, we still believe it'll come to you today. I'm like, that's a really bold claim. And if y'all don't have somebody that you are paying to drive to his home to drop it off right now, that's a really bold claim to say that he was going to get it. Like, I was like, they really told you that you were going to get the game. You were going to get the game on Tuesday, After you tweeted out, yeah, it hasn't been shipped yet.
Yeah, they had nothing. There was no update to it. They were like, they first of all, when it got to Tuesday, nothing. I got no notice, no notification. So I get home Tuesday night and I see something like, oh, it's scheduled to ship today. I'm like, okay, that's not how it's supposed to work. But all right, wake up this morning and it said it's scheduled to ship approximately between the 23rd and the 29th. No, that really isn't how it works. So I had to call them.
One comes after all those numbers you just listed.
Yeah.
Because it goes like 901, and then we stop counting at that point.
Yeah.
But you'll get it by the first patch, hopefully.
Well, no, I'm getting it tomorrow because when I talked to them, they were like, oh,
we'll overnight you another copy.
Yeah, they were like, let's cancel this order, which, by the way, I had ordered it the same day I ordered Red Dead. Yes, I do that sometimes, people. I will pre-order a game.
You're talking, look,
for release date, so shut up.
Pro tip, everybody. Pro tip, everybody. If you want a console or want anything, turn on your computer while watching E3 and have Amazon pulled up. And the moment they say, and this thing is, refresh the page. Click on the thing and pre-order it. It is how you get every pre-order for anything you want. If you wait until like a month before and you're like, yeah, I want this game, or a day before, for things like what Horizons was the game that sold out on Amazon, right? Like completely.
Yeah.
Don't wait till last minute.
But see, here's the thing.
Also, don't pre-order video games.
No, here's the funny thing about the Horizon shit. I actually had to cancel my order because it was being shipped to the address that I knew I was going to be at.
Mm-hmm.
It was going to be shipped home. So maybe 3 weeks before the game came out, I was like, shit, this is going to be fucked up because I got to cancel it and I got to reorder it. And I know it's going to end up coming slower. So I did that.
No, you didn't. Wait, why would you cancel it? Hold up. Black. You know, you can go in.
No, they wouldn't let me switch it to a locker.
No, but you should be able to switch the actual address.
They didn't let me do that. I'm telling you, that's why I had to cancel it. For some reason, they wouldn't let me.
It's like a 10-month-old order. The fuck you mean?
They wouldn't let me yet. No, they would not let me switch it to the locker. I actually had to physically cancel and then reorder it to have it sent to a locker so I could pick it up on my way home from work. Yeah, I did that. And guess what game came on the 28th of February when it came out? Horizon. That's why this is total bullshit. I don't understand why this game did not show up.
It's actually might be the link thing. It has been there for so long. Like, look, it's not a real excuse because it's just an excuse that shouldn't be an excuse. But they're just like, hey, this is a thing, right? We forgot about you.
Yeah, somebody's asleep at the wheel. Y'all so busy trying to open these goddamn stores that make no goddamn sense.
Wait, they're opening Amazon stores?
You don't know about the Amazon stores? There's one here.
All right, hold on. I want to make a point. And Amazon should be the one store where you have no person working there.
That's generally the idea. There are no real employees. There's just somebody there to, like when you come to get your stuff.
No, I actually like this idea. I need Amazon to open up more stores.
No, because it's corny to me.
Okay,
so you know about the lockers, right?
I've never been to one, but yes, I know about them.
Yeah, basically, if you don't know about Amazon lockers, basically in some stores, like here, they're in most of the grocery stores. There's a set of lockers that as long as the package is of a certain size, like you can't get no TV or anything like that, but you can probably get like a PC case size box, because they do have one real big one, and then the rest are like, different smaller sizes for smaller packages. But as long as you're getting something like a game, a VCR, video card, something like that, and I say VCR, why did I say that? Nobody orders those. You're ordering a VCR in 2000.
Enough.
What's wrong with you?
Let me stop.
Blu-ray player. I should be.
Nah, look, as long as you never look at an HD signal, a 480p signal looks crystal clear.
What are you trying to watch? Southpaw wrestling?
Funnily enough, speaking of the Power Rangers marathon, I may or may not have a stack of Power Rangers VHSs.
That's unfortunate. Do you
That's
have a
not
way to view them?
unfortunate. I have plenty of VCR. Look, I have VCR, DVD. I still have an old TV VCR combo. I even got one of those like newfangled TVs back in the day that had both TV, like you had the TV and then below it was the DVD on one side and the VCR on the other. I never use it ever, but it exists.
That's sad.
No, like this.
I'm the old person and I don't even have this shit.
Look, things happen. It's useful for when it, like, you know, like when it's like, hey, I want to watch something. I never realized how inconvenient it could be to carry a console downstairs constantly until like people want to watch movies, but you don't want to leave the console downstairs. And then I understand that's why Blu-ray players exist for people that don't play video games. It's really weird. Really weird. But speaking about things that are really weird and people losing their minds over nothing, because that's a smooth transition.
It's a good segue to what our main story is going to be, which comes off I guess you could take it as news if you're a Destiny fan. I know a lot of you.
Destiny. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I know it's supposed to be the worst thing in the world, and what was some of the other shit that people used to say? Like, it's the cancer of the gaming industry. I've heard that one before.
Please, let's not even go down that path. Let's not talk about people getting triggered and then trigger me by talking about statements that will trigger me very quickly.
Well, I mean, people had somehow it was like the worst thing that they ever made. The most disappointing thing Bungie ever did.
People like to speak in hyperbole on the internet.
And
this is me pretending to stay calm.
By the way,
aren't you going to mention that Bungie is psychologically exploiting its players?
Yeah, something like that too. It was all types of shit. That hurt. But anyway, it's a video game. People shouldn't be that serious.
Exactly.
But hey. Anyway, they're doing something called the Age of Triumphs. What that is it's their farewell song to the first Destiny, because pretty much everybody feels like Destiny 2 will be coming out this year. And by doing something like this, you got to think that this is what's going to happen, because why would you do this definitive last big, huge, free update with new content, new gear for people to pick up, new quest lines, revamping all of the raids so that they'll be up to current light level and you'll be able to use all of your weapons from no matter what point and period of time. They'll all be able to level up to the same level, and people just go down this like memory lane road and blah, 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 blah.
Let me just say, if you're looking for a game to carry you for like the rest of the year, Destiny 1 is definitely the game to pick up right now. Like, it'll carry you for a while.
Yeah, I mean, considering that you can get the edition for like what, $40-$50, they'll give you all the DLC.
Yeah. 40 like the whatever it is, the what's the last
Rise of Iron, Taken King.
Yeah, the Rise of Iron, which will like the entire thing will include everything. You'll be able to get that for you. Back during the holidays, we were selling them at GameStop when I worked there for like $40.
Yeah,
and people, and even then another game in Division, like either one of those games right now is a good game to pick up because they've had years in development and are in pretty good places. Overall. Just thought I'd plug them. We're not sponsored, but I mean I'll take your money.
Bungie, huh?
I've played 200 hours of your game.
Yeah, I've put in enough hours to say that I actually do like it. So me sponsoring it wouldn't be an issue. It wouldn't be faking it.
Yeah, like you were saying, what drove everybody up the wall this time?
So of course, in the middle of announcing all this good stuff. They had their last stream today, and they talked about some little tweaks that they made to weapons, which, these tweaks for a game like Destiny affect both PvE and PvP. And of course, the competitive PvP players are up in arms because one of the tweaks was hand cannons. Anybody who's played Destiny, especially if you played it from the beginning until now, you've known about the journey, the saga of hand cannons, to where there were certain hand cannons that were just so crazy, like Thorn.
So balanced. They're so balanced. They're like the thorns on a rose.
Yeah, Thorn was ridiculous. But Thorn will be back probably.
Just a gun that everybody uses. What do you mean?
Well, the funny thing is Thorn is back. They actually came out with the year 3 version of Thorn.
I don't want to know,
but it's not as good as it was. No, they've actually taken it down to where it's not the murder machine that it was. Of course, people were mad at that.
I was just gonna say, like, if you want me to get back into this game, you're gonna want to stop talking. I was like, I can't.
But no, if you face somebody with Thorn, you're not gonna like scream like you used to back in the day. Yeah. Like, well, you shot me twice. Now I'm just gonna stand here and bleed out because that's what the gun did back in the day. Basically, if you can get 2 solid hit, or if you can get 1 headshot and a chest shot, your opponent was dead. You didn't have to shoot no more. You could walk away and just slow. It would be like, the samurai movies when they come to clash, and then like after the clash, one person walks away while the other's just standing there still and just falls over because he just got his like lungs pierced up. It was that type of shit.
But the worst thing is that because it's 2 shots, you could literally be rounding a corner and you just doom.
Yep, and then you're just gonna be ebbing out your life force and fall.
So what did they specifically do to hand cannons?
They shortened the range by 3 meters because, of course, hand cannons. One of the problems with hand cannons that people had was they were already like strong guns because fucking hand cannon, but they had incredible range. That was one of the biggest problems about Thorn too. Was you've given these people this gun that you can hit somebody twice and leave a third of their health to bleed out. But it also did that from incredible range. And there were other guns like Last Word, which was one of my favorite guns, still is one of my favorite guns, that has been up and down through all types of balancing and tweaking. It's not as powerful as it used to be. Still a fun gun to use, but it's definitely not as powerful as it used to be. Hawk Moon, which used to be a terror because that shit would hit like a hammer, especially when Luck in the Chamber came into play. My God.
Look, I'm not a hipster or anything, but I used weapons before they were good.
Yeah, no. I still use them even though people think they're bad. I like those guys because they're what I'm comfortable with.
Wait, all right. So is what's the name of that gun? Is it Last Light? I don't remember. The assault rifle. The most fun. It was the most fun gun to shoot in that
Hard Light.
Yes,
that son of a bitch.
It is the most fun gun.
Because they've buffed auto rifles a bit, it's now even more fucking annoying because you have bouncing bullets that actually do more damage now. Fuck that gun. I hate that gun.
All I'm saying is that gun produced a bigger light show than like a college student's rave in like a warehouse downtown. It was ridiculously fun to shoot, and your clip emptied in like a 1/10 of a second. A little bit of hyperbole, but it was the best gun ever to shoot in that game. Just so good. So
fucking bouncing off walls.
So all right. So if we want to talk about that change briefly, I think it was needed. If you ever go back and read through their patch notes, they always talked about like how certain guns and certain things have like the idea that distance plays just as much a part in the fight as what you're carrying into it. And I think that hand cannons were always that thing, at least from when I played. Again, I haven't played Destiny in about a year. Hand cannons, from what I remember, always had what felt to me like too long of a range.
Yeah. That's what a lot of people felt.
They shot faster than snipers. Some snipers. and hit just as hard and had a range that was, I mean, still in the same ballpark. To where like, and this is, and once we get through all these changes, I guess I'll bring up a topic of how do you think they're balancing the game overall? Because
I think for what Destiny is, I don't mind stuff that they do, because the problem with Destiny as it stands as a competitive game, this is probably why it's never been drawn up to the high level competitive game that a lot of people in the community have wanted it to be, is that what affects things doesn't just affect one meta of the game, because everything that you pick up in PvE you can use in PvP and vice versa. So when they tweak something, it's not just done for one particular part of the game. It's done for the entire game, and it affects the entire game as a whole. And so they have a really delicate balancing act to go with, and for the most part, I don't think they've done that bad of a job.
they destroyed Destiny.
Thing is, okay, so just to briefly touch on the other two balances, there's a rocket launcher called the Truth, which has a really, really large damage area. It has high level damage, and it's a tracking missile on top of that. So if you had ammo in Truth and PvP, you can just shoot a rocket in the air and it'll just heat sneak on somebody. And if a couple of your friends are near, y'all all fucked. Well, to kind of slow its killing power down, they decided we're not going to take away power, because we've done that before, and we're not going to do that again. So what they've done is they've made the rounds in the chamber less. You only get one rocket, and then you have to reload. So if you fire a rocket, you have to go through the reload. And if you've ever seen the reload animation for rockets on Destiny, it's not a short thing. So you can get taken out. There's some risk to using that now.
Sorry that you can't be a god.
Because before it was just like you could damn near 2-tap rockets with that shit. Even though it was only 2 or 3 rockets in the chamber, you could damn near like shoot them, bam,
boom,
bam,
boom. Boom, boom, boom.
There wasn't really much time between shots, at least to me.
I remember Truth. Truth was a really good gun. And then there's one more that I think you mentioned prior to us going live. One that I personally, I mean, have an issue with, because it's the best sniper in the game, and they're touching my sniper rifle specifically.
No Land Beyond.
Exactly.
So,
what's more badass than an armored space, like
a rickety old fucking latch? Latch it to load the chamber space rifle.
It's so good. It's such a good gun.
And it had pretty decent damage and really good range. Well, and another thing was it didn't have much recoil. It barely bucked when you shot it, like some sniper rifles do. Like its waver, all that, pretty stable gun. Well, they've added more recoil to the gun. They didn't change anything else basically, but add recoil. So, you can't just, and I think part of it, because when they were showing the tests, they were showing him doing a shot close up. I think part of it is because people were probably getting too good at no scoping with it.
Yeah. Oh no. Like, so as somebody that used that gun extensively, once you got good at general aiming with it, you could no scope with that gun really easy. It was one of those things that, like, even quick scoping with that gun.
Yeah, it was like that. It made Call of Duty snipers look like they were spraying all over the place.
But can I ask you a question? Did they ever take the glint away?
What do you mean?
On No Land Beyond, because that's still my issue with that gun. It shouldn't have a glint. Every other gun in the sniper in the game, I understand why it has like a glint on top of it. No Land Beyond is a piece of dusty ass metal.
Oh, you mean like if somebody sees you from the other side of the map, they can see that?
I get why they
Light
don't,
up.
but I'm just look. I want it.
I don't know. I have to check now. Now you're making me. I have to check.
I don't know. I don't think they would do it because that would make it a very broken sniper rifle. But with that all said, so the question I was going to ask is usually when it comes to, and I'm going to go, competitive gaming is where I spend most of my time viewing video games now. I'm very much into the competitive side, but do you feel like they're balancing in any game? Do you feel like a developer should balance a game towards what would be the masses, so the casual audience, or do you think that they're balancing around the casual audience? Are they balancing around the competitive side? Are they looking at the kind of top, we'll say 5% of the game, 10% of the game, saying these are being exploited by the best players? And then there's maybe like some overlay there, but the majority, like the best players, can exploit these, and so we're going to tone that back. And do you think they're right for doing it?
And this leads into our topic, which basically it's balancing multiplayer and how it affects the competitive scene and people as overall. I personally do not think that they are looking at just the competitive scene and doing the balancing. I honestly think it's about the whole, because the things that I've talked about, like with hand cannons, when you got a hand cannon like the last word, which has perfect balance, which basically takes away the majority of the recoil, that the takes away the majority of the kick. Plus, it gives you armor piercing rounds, which can, add to damage. You have a steady aim, high caliber weapon that has a buff to its damage. On top of that, that could be a problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like with Hawk Moon, with the luck in the chamber, it's already a really strong gun. Now I also, every now and again, one of the bullets is going to come out and basically be like a fucking mortar round. Things like that. People will go in, of course, exploit it. It doesn't matter whether you're competitive or casual. If you can find something that you feel gives you an edge, or that's an exploit, people are going to do it, and other people are going to follow suit. You know what I mean? It's the human nature.
It's the YouTube. Have you seen this?
Yeah. It's like so easy for everybody to jump along and know when to. It's just like Truth. Truth wasn't the top rocket until they got rid of Gallahorn, when Gallahorn was nerfed. And then all of a sudden, like, people were looking for a rocket, and then they figured out, they just made, once Truth became a year 2, year 3 exotic, they was like, Truth is just like a mini version of Gallahorn. Let's all go crazy and everybody use Truth. It's just like, okay, they took down the last word in Hawk Moon a bit, but there's other hand cannons that came along that they like. Right now, the biggest thing is Eyes of Luna. Everybody wants a fucking Eyes of Luna hand cannon in that game because apparently it's the shit. But of course, now that they're taking away some range, people are gonna get salty because that's the thing. Eyes of Luna could basically be one of it hurts its effectiveness some. Or back when Vex Missile Class, when it first came out, that fucking gun was dumb. If you don't know what Vex Missile Class is, it's a fusion rifle. Now, fusion rifles, generally speaking, in
are bullshit
Destiny,
in general.
Are bullshit anyway, because they're one burst round weapons that have a high amount of damage over an extremely long distance.
This is all I'm going to say. Imagine, to anybody out there, when I used to play Destiny, and people used to be like, well, why are you mad about fusion rifles? It is essentially like a better controlled and better like clustered shotgun burst that works at works up to mid range.
No, I do you one better. I take every round in my shotgun and meld them into one huge ball, set it on fire, and hurl it at you at long distance. That's a fucking fusion rifle. You could one shot kill people with like if you can get on target, you one shot kill people with that.
I remember when they nerfed the range on shotguns and it just became stupid because you could literally die to a fusion rifle before you would get close enough to use your shotgun.
Yeah, you can map people with fusions at one point. It was ridiculous. And still, like, even if you can't necessarily map, I would say you can do a lot of damage. But if you're in relative close enough range, you don't have to be that close, but if you can still kind of one-shot people with fusions. Anyway, so why is this important? Vex Mythoclast was a fucking automatic fusion rifle. It's an auto, and they brought it back, by the way, because since they retweaked since they've retweaked all of the raised current, Vex Mythoclast is back in the meta. So yeah, people are shooting fucking hot fire slugs in rapid successions at you. Yeah, that's Vex. That was that bullshit.
I'm like the PvP in that game. It was stressful to keep up with in Destiny, just because everything switched literally every patch. The best gun changed every single time a new patch came out, and that was just tiring to deal with. Now, what is your preference? Do you prefer that they balance it around the majority of people that play the game, or do you feel like they should balance it around?
Well, yeah, that was part of my argument on Twitch, and it was like, yeah, it should be the majority. You want to make the game as viable for everybody, because while I do understand how competitive gaming has become important, they're not the only people that buy and play games. So I cannot sit here and justify you just doing things just to satisfy that one group. To put it further, I think a lot of people who claim that they're competitive aren't probably as competitive as they say they are. Because in my opinion, if you are a serious hardcore competitor person, sure, you'll be annoyed by some of the changes. But at the end of the day, I'm competitive. I'm considering myself the top of the food chain. I'll adjust and I'll still excel because I'm good. I'm actually good at the game. I don't just need to have certain things to do well in a game. I'm good at playing the game, period.
So that's the thing I always want to make. Like, I have said this before. The people, when somebody says they're good at video games and it's anything that is multiplayer and actually competitive, I will generally, and if it has a competitive scene, I will ask if they're a part of it, because they're very different approaches to how things work. Take somebody like me. I enjoy competitive gaming. I also recognize that I'm not that great at video games. So there's the distinction of, I could say the way that For Honor was playing when it first came out was bad. But I also couldn't deny that part of it was just me being a bad player.
Fair enough.
One second. And it's this idea that I agree that a lot of people think they're into competitive gaming, but if you if you can't, I think we had this conversation briefly on your Twitter. About your tweet. And the point I make is, like, if you ever talk to Jordan, you talk to LeBron, Kobe, whoever you want to say is the greatest of all time. If you ever talk to them, I'm losing my train of thought because I'm being called constantly. Lol. But if like actual competitors, like the best of the best, are going to and are fully willing to adapt. Like, adaptability is part of what makes people the best. As a MOBA player, people that have ever heard of League of Legends have probably heard of Faker.
I have no idea who that is,
but essentially it's a guy that has, for the past 4 years now, excelled on pretty much every single patch the game has ever come out in. There's never been a time where he's looked like terrible. He's always looked world class and usually been one of the best people in his position in the game. And that's one thing that people talk about being great, even from an NA perspective. If you watch League, here in NA, there's a player, Bjergsen, who generally looks good. And the idea of being consistent and being really good is important towards how good somebody is as a player. It's part of it. But saying that, people should also recognize that there is a how to say this? I'm trying to figure out a way to say this in the right way. You have to add conditions. That's why conditions matter. Why modifiers matter to statements. There are times where you can say, like when somebody is like Steph Curry is one of the best 3-point shooters that the game has ever seen. Steph Curry is the best 3-point shooter in the last 10 to 15 years. I'm not saying these are either true statements, but the idea is by modifying statements, you can make them true. You can say, I'm the best player at this game on X patch, because maybe the way the game is played, you do excel in it. But you can't claim to be the best if you're going to say, like, well, one patch makes me bad at the game.
Yeah, and see, that's where I get a lot of issue with certain competitive players, because, like, you guys, especially if you're a competitive player that does adjust and end up being good regardless, it pisses me off even worse, because it's like, why are you complaining? You're still just as good as the game. It's just that, what is it? It's like, I don't understand. It's like, is it that you want to keep that advantage so you can separate yourself further from other people, or
I think
what is it?
I think there's two things. So there's two types of change, in my opinion, in competitive games. The first is, like, we talked about this, where you brought up where the NBA changed, like, the half court rule or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I would consider, like, the patch that Destiny just put out. It's a very minute patch. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't affect it's not going to affect 99.9% of situations, right? Like, the majority of people can be mad about it, but it's not going to have such a dramatic effect beyond the game is slightly going to shift. Now, if you take something, usually there are bigger patches, be it a new season for a fighting game, something like Street Fighter 5 Season 1 to Season 2, in between League seasons, in between the recent earlier this year or late last year patch for Dota, in shooters where Counter or CSGO introduced that new pistol that broke the game, basically. They're patches that fundamentally change how the game functions to where it is not even necessarily the same game. And that's where I personally have where I find, like, there is some justification for it. I feel like there's an idea of consistency. As long as the changes are far enough apart, I don't think it matters. But if every single patch is fundamentally changing your game, it's like I'm saying, if, like, every single game of basketball you played, they were like, you're going to play at 10 feet. Now you're playing at 4 feet. Now you're playing at 8 feet. Now you're playing at 16 feet. Now you're doing this. Now the 3-point line is here. Now the 3-point line is actually the half court line. Now there's this. Now the ball is this size. And all of those different things are constantly changing. It becomes hard to gauge. You can gauge who's the most adaptable player, but not always who's the best player, because even the best 3-point shooter isn't just going to automatically be the best 3-point shooter. It's this idea that practice, not just pure talent, but talent plus practice is what inevitably creates the best, not one or the other inherently. Like, somebody that practices a bunch can be really good, and somebody that's naturally talented can be really good, but it's kind of this weird middle ground, usually, where the best exists, where there's some degree of natural talent, and there's some degree. I think with video games as well, it's really weird, because video games aren't limited to and why it doesn't always equate to real sports, aren't limited to your physique. like in a lot of senses, I make the point, and my dad and I have talked about it a lot. I'm going off on a tangent. This is something I obviously care about.
It's fine. If you guys listen to the first episode, you know this. Come on.
But LeBron James is a player the NBA has not, like, there are very few people that have even come close to how LeBron is essentially an NFL linebacker or a power forward size player that has the handles of a point guard, handles and the speed of a point guard, and can shoot with a shooting guard easily.
Yeah.
Like, he's a player that could theoretically play any position on the floor and play it well. And that changes how you have to even look at the game, because he is a different caliber of athlete. He is literally what ideally you kind of want in a basketball player, to be able to do anything and everything consistently, whether you like LeBron or not. You can't deny that fact about him.
Yeah.
And I think he would be, if there was a player like that in a game, like, it doesn't matter. Like, the things in a game that matter are hand-eye coordination, reaction time, and kind of how well you know information. And so it's kind of like in fighting games, it can come down to literal, like, did you had 1/12 of a second, or technically it'd be 5/60th of a frame or a second, because it's 60 frames a second. So 5/60th of a second, so 1/12 of a second to make a input, and you fucked it up. And it's kind of like there's a very big difference, especially if you mess with that timing constantly and you're adjusting that to where people still have to find and be able to execute, where a lot of it is muscle memory for games. Games are just so much about just like knowing what to do, not just mentally, but just being able to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people in games get a lot madder, because the only thing limiting them is honestly like the amount of practice and the amount of time they can put into it. And I think that's why generally people get more mad at games, because you can't in a video game be like, well, you should have spent more time in the gym. Unless you're at the, like,
but you
top
can kind of
1%.
make the argument that, hey, if you want to make sure that you're able to switch depending on situation, maybe you should not just use hand cannons. Maybe you should learn how to use the other weapons too, so you can get familiar with them.
There will always be people that are meta slaves. Somebody that is literally like, oh, this is the best thing now, I use this now. This is the best thing now, I use this now. And we'll just rinse and repeat that process over and over and over again. Because that's what works. And that's, like, generally how you're going to find the most success. But I also feel like, for the most part, like, the only time that matters is in, like, one-on-one situations. If that makes sense. Like, if you're not playing a one-on-one situation.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I could see, like, I could understand, again, back when Thorn was just ridiculous. If you're somebody who didn't play with Thorn and you face somebody who used Thorn, one-on-one, if that person had decent enough aim, they probably were going to beat you, no matter how quick your reflexes were, how well you were with your gun. And it was like, okay, I can understand the frustration is that. Of course, I also do still think that you can always counter that by learning what the counter is. I mean, it wasn't like Thorn was unbeatable. It wasn't like you couldn't survive against somebody who used Thorn. And I've seen people run circles around other players who use those guns that became the meta in Destiny and in other games as well. That's why it's like, I understand having some argument and being annoyed, but if you're a serious competitive player, you will adjust. I mean, I don't consider myself competitive at all. I generally play for fun. You know how I am. It's like me not, I can care less about being the king of the mountain You know, I just want to. I would, of course, I want to do well because everybody wants to do well, but I'm not going to fucking lose my shit if I'm not on top of the leaderboard all the time. You know. That being said, I adjust. As much as I hate that gun that you mentioned, Hard Light, I fucking hate that gun. I wish that gun, people who use that gun, you go to hell. You suck. But I keep going because I can beat you. At least I feel like in my mind, I can figure out a way to beat you. I'm not going to just sit here and just cry when I get beat. I'm going to keep going because, no, you can figure something out.
I'm going to just put... I think there's also the disconnect in the community in general. Like, I think a lot of kids don't get like the different mentality that should actually, and there's even adults. I shouldn't even just say kids, but there's people that have the actual mentality that take that seriously. And don't like know the separation of the two. Where for me personally, I may say like, I can't, man, that's some bullshit. I shouldn't lose to A, B, C, and D. That's bullshit. It shouldn't do this, that, and the other. And I may also make the statement that I'm also bad at the game. And the one that I should always emphasize to people that should take precedent is that I'm bad at the game. Like, I am somebody that recognizes even being bad at video games. I try to objectively look at it as, well, what is the ideal way to play the situation? And that's how you have to say something. Like you're saying, a good player and the best player will always be able to find the advantage or figure out how to win a situation. Because what people don't fail to realize is, well, if you keep calling that, say this is X is bullshit or X is wrong, and then you run it and still lose, what's the excuse then?
Yeah,
that's what I would say. Like, it becomes an issue if your excuse should never be a reason why you stop trying. You can explain like, well, this is the optimal thing because of A, B, and C, and still try to beat it and still fight hard and still try to prove that you're the best. And I don't think that's actual complaining. There's a difference between the joke, you know, and like somebody actually seriously being like, no, this is broken. Like, there are very few things I feel like a competitive gamer will come out and say, because usually that stuff is fixed almost immediately. If like the entire competitive community came out in Destiny and said, no, this gun is completely and utterly broken, like it is literally unplayable, everybody on every game should be running this regardless, I feel like it would be handled fairly quickly.
Yeah.
But and if it's not that point, it just means like there is a best case scenario. There's a scenario that the majority of people want to use, but that doesn't always mean that there's go back to I'll take it to another sport. Go back to Michael Jordan and the Bulls and try and tell people that the team that's going to beat that is not necessarily the team that has the best defense or anything else, but a team that just shoots threes, can literally shoot threes from anywhere and have a high enough percentage to constantly do that for 70-some games. And people will look at you kind of crooked like, yeah, sure. It's not always like what people expect and what happens and what changes is never going to be something that's super easily predictable all the time. And people just have to recognize that different times, different things will shine, different players will be good. It's just the people that consistently come up will always be the best.
Yeah, well, it's just like your whole thing where you say like people could say Steph Curry is the best 3-point shooter in the last 10 years. That may be true, but he's not going to make everything. He's not going to always kill everybody. And just because he's doing well doesn't necessarily mean he's going to win either.
Yeah, and that's what people don't like. When I was a kid, and still to this day to some degree, my favorite basketball player was T-Mac. Like, hands down, some of the stuff that dude did, in my opinion, was amazing. But at the same time, like, that's a very limited window for me to be like, yeah, nah, T-Mac's the greatest player of all time. Hell no. Hell no. I won't make that argument. But I could make certain situations of like, if I were to say, have you seen another player do this? And you can narrow it down to where he's in such an elite category. You're talking about some of the best players to ever play the game.
Yeah.
And that's when it comes down. Like, if you want to be the best of all time, you literally have to be the best of all time. And that's part of the reason the all time is there. whether it's raining, shining, snowing, sleeting, hailing, completely desert, like regardless of what the conditions are, you perform and you outperform everybody else, or will outperform everybody else the majority of the time. That's what makes you the best of all time. And that's what you should be aspiring to if you actually want to be the best. And that's not even just at gaming. That's at anything people do. Like, you don't hear about it in anything. Like, the best filmmaker wasn't like, well, you know what? Kanye West. Music. Let's go to music. Kanye has said things like he's the greatest. Like, why I give Kanye is he has the confidence in his stuff to say that he is the greatest and to constantly assert that and to be willing to fight for that. And he'll make excuses, which is what pisses me off about him, but he continues to make the assertion. If you're going to do it, go full hog on it. His excuses are what pisses me off. I've heard people make the excuse that Kanye's before his time. Well, then he's not the best of all, because he couldn't read the lay of the land to make the right album at the right time to be recognized. Like, that's another skill. You don't have all the skills you need to be the best of all time. And that takes development. Maybe people will look back and be like, yo, like people say with 808 and Heartbreaks, that now it's a great album. And now it like led up to what is now a lot of synth heavy auto-tune. It's stuff like that where I'm saying, like, in gaming, if you realize all of a sudden you went from the best player in Destiny now and this hand cannon nerf hurts you, find the next weapon and prove that you're the best sniper player. Then prove you're the best auto rifle.
Yeah, set the trend. Instead of you falling into the meta, why don't you fucking set the trend? Like, if you're the best player, like some people who I've seen who are really good at the game, I've seen them use some of the most shit weapons and outplay people with them. And it's just like, goddamn, how'd you do that? That's when I was like, yeah, you're good. But if you're doing like everybody else, playing the meta,
yeah,
you can't make that argument to me because I don't see you doing anything that everybody else does. It's just that you just happen to be better at reacting with that weapon than other people are. This is like the whole Vex Mythoclast thing. Sure, that gun is fucking annoying, but I've killed plenty of people using that gun because they didn't react fast enough. And some people who beat me, that doesn't necessarily mean that they were that much better than me. They just reacted. I didn't react fast enough to it.
Is it like, I guess another side analogy. That's why Spud Webb was so surprising. You got a 5'6" dude out here that's winning that won the dunk contest. Like, literally, what you would argue would be one of the biggest against the odds situations. Like, out of his element. It's like a nearsighted dude being the best sniper in the world. You can't say shit to him. It's where I
because he found a way to get past whatever shortcomings there were. And excuse the pun. And
that's a fun fact as well. It was proven a while ago, it's been done with studies, but people like Michael Jordan, the way they got as good as they are is they didn't focus on their strengths. They focused on making their weaknesses better. Whatever you're weakest at, focus on improving that, and that's what makes you better.
It's funny because a lot of people still don't remember this, but Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team.
He also, I think his rookie year, he had pretty, what was it? Was it jump shooting numbers? I'm trying to remember. Like, if you look at his career,
oh no, he was a horrible jump shooter in the beginning,
but he focused on that, improved on that to the point.
As he got older, he became a much better longer range jump shooter. He even became a decent 3-point shooter. He was not, if it was outside of 15 feet or to where he could possibly launch himself for a dunk, he was not. He wasn't. Nah, that wasn't his game. It was he used the speed and his leaping ability and his ability to change hands more than anything earlier in his career.
But that's
his athleticism propelled him early on. But like you said, as time went on, this dude became like a really good jump shooter.
Where the area that people would have said that's where you want him to be in, you don't necessarily want Michael Jordan jump shooting later in his career because he will beat you.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm telling anybody. Like, I always say at the end of the day, when in a fighting game, if you have a bad matchup, play that matchup. That's the matchup that should become your best matchup. If you are playing a shooter, whatever weapon you're worst with become your best weapon. Like 100%. For those, when I play shooters, I play sniper rifles because I can't aim to save my life. And it has forced me to get better at shooters consistently over the years, because once I start hitting more consistently with them, then the other areas are already coming up. Like, it's the same thing with any type of game. MOBAs, whatever your weakest areas are, work on those. RTSs, if you don't have hotkeys and how to do all that stuff correctly, work on that. Whatever your weakest area is, I could list every single game. That's what I focus on when I play games to try to get better, is whatever I am worst at. Because that's how the idea is, if you raise the floor, the bottom half of your ability, the top half can always go up. You can always work on your strengths, and you can always rely on your strengths to some degree, but it's your weaknesses where you can get exploited. So that's the same thing. If your weakness is you're slow to change, work on changing faster. Work on, like, a new patch came out. All right, let me read the patch notes. Let me try to understand what's happening. All right, I think, like you said before, what is going to be the new meta? Maybe you figure that out, and eventually you become the person that can read patch notes once, twice, and be like, all right, this is the new best gun.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of try not to go with meta. Again, maybe it's because I'm not competitive enough. And again, I question that whole competitive thing, because if your competitive edge is I have to learn the new meta and jump on it before everybody else, I don't know how competitive you are, because my counter would be, shouldn't the challenge be using what you're comfortable with and still beating the odds?
And I guess the thing I would say is, I think knowledge should also be counted as like a skill. Like, the person that's able, because generally from what's been seen, it's like the person that knows the whatchamacallit, the person that knows the like new meta, they also know what the thing is to deal with it. It's I think very rare that you have somebody that is like the front runner that also doesn't. It's like the idea of the person that doesn't know how to beat how can I say this? The person that builds the machine knows how to beat it. It's the Batman thing. Batman helped build the Justice League, but can beat every single person in the Justice League if he has to.
Yeah, because he has a counter for everybody.
That's what the point people should get to, is like, because if you get to the point where you're saying, all right, this is what the new meta should be, well, what beats auto rifles in Destiny? All right, well, what's the best counter to that in their class? All right, why is it the best? Well, what numbers are slightly tuned too high? What have they been ignored? Or stuff like that. And it's coming from somebody that my competitive nature comes from the fact that, and for a long time I ignored it, but comes from the fact that I grew up playing sports since I was 3, and part of me always wants to compete to some degree. It's a mindset that you have to be willing to go into things with. Like, it can be really difficult, but I had a conversation on Twitch with people before that there's a difference between a lot of people. Most people play games to have fun. And that doesn't mean they want to win or lose. They just want to have fun.
Yeah.
If they are enjoying themselves, they're fine. Competitive people generally want to win, and they will take a course of action to try to do that. And I'm not advocating cheating here. If you cheat, you're a bastard.
No, that's not necessary about you. Again, like we've been talking the whole meta thing. You know what's the edge. You know, like most people who are competitive, they can tell you how long it takes to reload a gun or some shit like that. Or like if I swap weapons, what swaps faster. You know, how long it takes me to draw my gun up and to aim. They kind of get a feel for all the. They go beyond just the basics. And just like you were saying in fighting games, somebody who's great at Street Fighter can tell you how many milliseconds it takes to do a move or like where you need to position yourself for something to hit and things like, you know what I mean?
Footsies is like a basic of fighting games now, of essentially dodging in and out of somebody's range to make them whiff a move. So if they miss, but you're still close enough to punish that mistake.
Right.
Like it's ideas of like stuff like that is the stuff that you should always be looking to and working on. And it's part of the thing that I love. It's the mental chess match of gaming, where there's so many different factors, and it's about who can account and take care of all that stuff.
Yeah, and I think again, when I hear people send up the whale when something's changed, it's like, okay, get over it. If you're so good, you'll be able to figure that stuff out and adjust. And now, if it's something that actually breaks the gameplay of the game, that's
the difference.
That's a different story. Like if it makes the game unplayable.
Like I want to make this point like 100% clear. Going back to Destiny, the original Thorn, I can come up and say, like, people will say, like, well, you can argue on stuff. If you give the two top players in Destiny, one player Thorn and the other player that didn't have Thorn another gun, I would bet money on the player with the with Thorn to win the majority of the match, because it was just that strong of a weapon, and like its range and how hard it hits and its abilities, all of that stuff. There are situations where stuff is legitimately stronger, but it goes back to again, I always go back to real sports because that's where, or physical sports because that's where I learned. A lot of times what people don't realize is most of the stuff in games that makes you better is fundamentals. Until you have your fundamentals really almost perfected, you have a lot of room to grow.
Yeah.
So like the people that you should be scared of were the people that were like back when No Land Beyond was literally the most garbage thing ever.
But they were in there taking people's heads off.
Like, yeah, they're the people that will carry the game and get like, I knew exactly how to handle the weapon in a way perfectly, and be scared of the people now that even when they're getting shots, they're pulling off headshots with No Land Beyond because they know how to use that gun so perfectly that they're on another level with that weapon.
Yeah,
they might not be the best player in Destiny, but they're going to be the best No Land Beyond user. But that's I love competitive gaming. Competitive gaming is like much of anything. Got to train the body and train the mind to be the very best, like no one ever was. I don't know. You got me riled up today because when I was reading your tweets, I was just, it's one of those things that I feel really passionate about. I always feel, back to the question I asked you, I feel like devs just have to be decisive in what they say. Like if you're trying to make a competitive game, then you have to be willing to balance it around competitive and be upfront about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
I don't know
if there's ever been a game. Counter-Strike may be one of the last games, or League of Legends in Dota.
Well, I think
that they seriously have built themselves in a way that it caters to the competitive scene and not everybody. Because let's be honest, most people want to make money off of.
I want to be real. League of Legends, the amount of time, like even they will say something and do something and the pros are like, this was not for pros. This is literally for people that are completely bad at the game. And it just is for like the worst players at the game, or for like, this is because X person is, if you've ever watched my Paragon streams, how there's certain things I complain about that are only a problem for solo queue, for people that aren't playing in an organized team. Because generally in games that involve teamwork, how a game functions with a team is 100% different than how it functions with a group of individuals. Because there are different things that are accounted for. But that happens with League all the time, where there are things in patches that aren't always for competitive. But when it gets around this time of year, where we're going into playoffs, where we're going into Worlds, possibly like in the second half of the year, that's when you really see a lot of patches that are definitely focused on competitive. But beyond that, there's usually some of both in every single patch. And it's why people, and you'll see that in the community, that a lot of people hate the fact that they don't just balance for competitive. That it's kind of like talking out both sides of their mouth. Now, Counter-Strike is just a game that's been going on for so long that it's.
But I feel like Counter-Strike is like, while people do jump in and try to be like, just play it just for fun, I feel like it has basically given itself over to the competitive. It's one of the few games that have given itself completely. Like, I thought League was like that, but I don't play enough League. You know more than I do. So I'm surprised to hear that they do that stuff, because
they're better about it, but they still. All I want, like
League, Dota, and Counter-Strike. Those three games, I just always see as those are the competitive sports games.
If we're going back 10 years, then you would argue, I think the best example of a game being balanced for competitive was StarCraft 2. Like, that's a game that was specific, or StarCraft in general has always been a game that has specifically been balanced around like competitive play. They didn't care whether you or your grandma could play the game. They cared about like having a balanced game for people to compete in. And then most fighting games do a general good job. But nah, I watch. I don't even play League anymore. I purely watch the competitive side of things. But the non-competitive stuff that I see when watching former pros or people streaming it, you can tell when there's certain things, like there are characters that, like, in League there's like 130, 140 characters now to pick between. And I think at the start of this season, it was like the most diversity ever, with like 60 different people picked. And that should say something. Same with Dota. Dota's a lot better, where you'll maybe get most, if not all, the roster picked. But they have a lot of things that are so nuanced that they're not really trying to make everything viable so much as give enough room for people to do a bunch of different things. And then if you want to on your own, when you're not playing in a competitive environment, you can try out the worst people ever. I don't know.
Damn, that's a horrible tweet to run into, by the way. If you're into wrestling, Jim Ross's wife just died. That's sad. And Skip Bayless is a bitch. Fuck him.
Oh my God, what did Skip do? Well,
no, he's pleased at how LeVar Ball, you know who LeVar Ball is, right?
Yeah.
Well, LeBron was upset because he's like, why are you bringing my kids into the conversation? Don't talk about my kids. So Skip is pleased that LeVar Ball fired back and called LeBron touchy because he's a drama king. And it's like, fuck you. The man should not be talking about his kids. He's not even worried about you. He's not talking about you yet. You want to start talking about people's family because your ass needs to be be attention. But I can see why Skip Bayless would think that, because he's a fucking attention whore too. So whatever, fuck him. That's for a sports podcast. Let's not get there.
How about LeVar Ball played Michael Jordan again?
He never played. He can't play Michael Jordan.
What do you mean? Look, my issue is just like,
if they were to play right now, he would lose 50-2 to Michael Jordan. And we're talking about old fucking. I ain't played competitive basketball in years. I'm fat. I think he's older than him even.
Definitely.
Michael Jordan busts his ass. And if they were young, he'd beat him even worse. And he knows that. He just wants the spotlight because now he has a child who's living out his dream and he could actually get some attention. Let's be 100% fucking real with LeVar Ball. He's just glad that now, after he was a failed fucking basketball player that couldn't live out his life dream, he can go through his children and live off that shit and feel like he's accomplished something. You ain't shit, dude. Your children are, but you ain't shit. Sit back, enjoy the success that your children are bringing you, and be happy for them. Get the fuck out of the spotlight, dumbass. Anyway, back to gaming. Hello.
I don't know. I'm in a weird middle space. Just be competitive.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's what he's being. He's being competitive. Too bad he
Being a bitch.
can't play. Anyway.
No, I'm just.
So, but yeah.
Let your son. Like, how about you tell your son to go play a game, a pickup game with LeBron, and see what happens?
Yeah. That'll be interesting. Well, we'll find out next year. Just all I gotta say is, LeBron, don't take out your rage on the dad on them, because.
Oh no, the son's just playing basketball. It's not stupid.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, but like, LeBron might be so mad at Dude's dad that he might see him and just decide, you know what, I haven't dunked on anybody in a while, and like, yeah, you don't want to be ran over by that. That man's lost weight, body mass, but he's still fucking cock strong as fuck. He will hurt you. So, but anyway. Yeah, definitely the competitive. It just irks me because it's just like you can't unless it's a game that's actually considered to be 100% just a competitive esports game. You're gonna have to accept the fact that most of what these developers do aren't just to balance it to hurt you or to make you look bad or anything like that. It's because they want to make sure that the people who buy the game all enjoy.
It's balanced around the most competitive environment.
Yeah, no, it's not about you. Sorry.
Don't you know people play Madden tournaments for millions of dollars every year?
Yeah, but that's because you made, and I think that's another thing that we have to remember about games. Games weren't necessarily developed to be that. You get some of the elements in games now because people figured out a way of making it into a competitive thing, but you also don't think that these companies are going to just give their whole attention to one part
exactly
of their community.
League is the best example. League, do you know why League doesn't just balance for competitive? Because League cares about the millions of people that buy skins from them on a daily basis.
Yeah.
As long as they're happy, that's what they care about. They don't care about the maybe few thousand people that are in the competitive scene, or even the tens of thousands of people that are in the competitive scene.
And that's the thing. The competitive scene is
always small.
It's tiny. So small. Like, again, it's just like going back to the sports thing. When you think about it, professional athletes make up such a small amount of those who actually play their sport.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and because I'm thinking about it, from the time that you first pick up a basketball till somebody gets in the NBA, how many times do you see that group just shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink?
Yeah. You guys are like, you're blessed to be paid for that. Man the fuck up. And those of you who are below, who aren't professional ones, but swear that you're so fucking highly competitive, take an example from the competitive, because I honestly don't, like, at least I don't know, maybe do you hear a lot of paid professionals complain like you do? People who say they're competitive?
Not usually, like, consistently. For the most part, I'll be like they'll may jokingly say like this person's broken, but guess what? They learned that person.
Yeah, I just feel like it's that, like, below tier, the people who think that they're the legends or that they're that highly competitive but aren't professional, that have the most. It's like the people who need the bragging rights, I guess, and aren't necessarily doing it because it's something that they're necessarily passionate about enough to work at it. Maybe, I don't know. It's just weird. It just reminds me of you being that guy on the playground who has beat mostly everybody on the playground, who talks about how good you. Oh, actually, good point. You kind of sound like LeVar Ball in a way at times. But that's just me. All right. So let's get ready to, I guess, wrap this up, because that conversation can go on and on and on and on and on and on forever. So what are the things I need to remember that I always forget? As always with this podcast, there's a video version that shows up on YouTube. You will see us there, but you could of course catch this along with all the other Wise Guy gaming, sports, and entertainment podcasts on SoundCloud, Google Play Music, and you could also catch it on iTunes and Stitcher. So if you prefer to just listen to audio versions of podcasts, feel free to do it there. That way you can take it on the go with you. You aren't just latched to your computer or device that can connect to the internet. You can just download it and take it on the fly. We're going to have to come up with another impressive conversation next week. Going to be interested to see what would be the next topic that we come up with, because things are kind of slowing down as far as I know. When it comes to gaming, we have Mass Effect Andromeda out. Already have Horizon, Nier, Neo, Resident Evil, Zelda. Jeez, what else has dropped early this year? So much stuff. So many like long play games that are taking up a lot of hours and a lot of a lot of space, landscape. So what's the next big game? I guess once Persona drop, that's going to eat up the month of April. That'll get us to May, where this will be out. But I think as far as stuff that is going to be very time consuming that we can discuss, I think that's over with. I think Persona's the last of the huge games. Everything else is just probably going to be, as far as time consuming, that is, not necessarily reputation, or just large, long hour games by design. But my co-host had to step away, so I'm going to say his goodbyes for him. We will catch you guys next week. What we're going to try to do is we're going to try to record this early and issue it on Saturday. So if you're wondering why you're seeing 2 episodes within a week's time, because we're going to try to dedicate Saturday as the day in which this podcast is posted. We're going to try to make Tuesdays the day for the His Point Her View podcast. We're going to try to make Fridays the day for the Wise Guy Gaming, Sports, and Entertainment Wise Guy Digest, so you'll know what's coming up, what to look for, what to expect. And then we'll try to schedule the other content accordingly, so you guys will have an idea of what the rhythm is as far as things go. But I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Again, I was just about to sign off for you. Welcome back. But no, I was just saying like how we have all these other games coming, but it's going to quiet down. So you'll probably get more news as far as games, because people aren't going to be playing as much.
I don't think so. Just because it's March and we're 3 months away from E3, so everybody's going to start playing.
I don't know. I have a feeling that after Persona comes out, you're going to start getting more news, because the E3 rumors are going to start popping up more.
I just need more.
The Scorpio stuff is probably going to start buzzing more, because Microsoft's going to have to start pushing that a little bit harder than they've been doing to prepare people for it. They can't just sit and think that E3 is going to be the bombshell.
It's Microsoft.
It's not going to work. Not this time. There's too much stuff that's come in gaming. Even Nintendo has a big thing out right now that's got Microsoft's kind of like in the back and just dropping the consoles.
I'm still waiting for the Microsoft like direct, like Sony does one now.
That's what they. I've been saying. That's why I think that's what we're gonna get. We have to get a precursor to E3 because if it's just all done in E3, they don't have no games. Is what I'm thinking.
No, they don't have anything unless they completely abandon the one.
No, I sincerely think that if the only time you get anything significant on Scorpio, it's a sign that there's really not going to be anything on there, and that its whole big premise is going to be that it runs Xbox One games better. And nah, that's not enough. It's not enough to just like, you know, I know people have been buying the PS Pro, but I think part of the reason PS Pro is selling well is because PlayStation has been putting out new games.
Yeah.
That utilize it, and they've been showing their games on there. Microsoft's not putting anything out. So unless you're going to introduce it and then you're going to show like 20 games that drop around it that are all pro optimized, and I'm not talking about just third party. I'm talking about you got a good amount of first party things, because Horizon sells the PS4 Pro better than any third party game, in my opinion. And I think that's going to be true of a lot of the exclusives that come out with Sony once it drops. I don't see myself wanting to go and buy an Xbox, the Scorpio, because Battlefield plays better on it.
Yeah.
Because it was like that last generation. At some point, certain games started to play better on PS3, but people weren't buying it because of it. You know, so I don't know, Microsoft, y'all got to do something. That's why I think that you're probably going to get better news between April and May, just to set up. They got to do something. I feel like they have to.
I do actually think they can do something. Before gaming is going.
Yeah, I need them to do something to at least try to disprove me, because as I've said countless times, I really don't think they want to be in the hardware business anymore.
I think they do. They just want to only have it be on PC.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I feel like they're just going to be a software distributor again. I don't think they're going to manufacture their own box after the Scorpio. Going on. But that's another discussion, another debate. We'll go on hours and hours for that. All right, sir. Anything that you need to plug? I know you have a new video coming out this week. What else?
For those that don't know, once again, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we are on the schedule. Today's video corrupted, so we're gonna work out something for in the next hour and a half, 2 hours to have up. So expect that. Well,
this will be shown probably
Sunday.
You'll probably see this. Yeah.
So Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm gonna try to get a normal schedule. Beyond that, we stream. I'm trying to stream twice a day. I don't know if I can do that because today, I gotta pay a little bit more attention to my body. I can't just do everything constantly. And
trust me, I learned that today.
Yeah, for me, if you want anime content, YoruStrix over on YouTube. If you want gaming, YoruStrix Gaming for VODs and kind of walkthrough type stuff. And then for live gameplay, Twitch. Mornings, we're doing Paragon. And if you're into competitive stuff, I talk a lot about the competitive side of Paragon, a lot of theory crafting and how the game should be played from a macro standpoint. For those wondering what that means, think of it of how like a coach drawing up plays for any other type of sport and how to execute the game in the ideal way to win. That type of idea. And then at evenings we just chill out. It's a little bit more adult, and we just play a wide variety of stuff. And then I'm here with Mike talking about whatever, whenever.
Yes, and I've already laid out for you guys the schedule for the channel here. So keep subscribing on SoundCloud and Google Play Music, iTunes, all of that. Feel free to drop a rating if you like it. Please hit it with 5 stars. That helps bring more exposure to the podcast. And we're just going to keep working on other things because there's a couple of more podcasts that I have to discuss. And there's actually something else I want to discuss with you and my co-host of His Point, Her View about doing one day. But we'll see if we can figure that out. It's just an idea that I came up with that I would see if you guys are interested in. But yeah, that's shit. I forgot MLB The Show is coming out next week. God damn it, my wallet.
Also, just because a nice send off. Run the Jewels just dropped a music video to Legend Has It.
Ooh.
Go watch that because that song is. If you haven't listened to Run the Jewels 3, go do it because it's really good.
They're shit. Just listen to Run the Jewels, period.
Yeah, no, but that. Have you heard? Look, Mike, go listen to the last. If you haven't heard Run the Jewels 3, go listen to it. It's.
Oh, I have it. Yeah, I know.
It actually, I would probably put it as my favorite project from last year over J. Cole. Yes, I know it surprises the world.
Oh, wow. That's saying something. Right there. That is saying something. Right there. By the way, have you listened to Jadina's album?
I've heard bits and pieces of it, not the entire thing.
That album was really, really good.
I always try to say that I try to sit, like do a straight listen whenever I'm going to actually listen to the album for the first time.
That was like actually really, really good. I was very
long live it.
That's not even the best song on it.
Trampoline has the. I'm not going to discuss that song.
Huh?
We won't discuss Trampoline.
I like that song though.
It's good and bad at the same time.
I can see where you could find it bad, but if you actually listen to the words, it's actually pretty cool.
All right. Well, before we start talking about our bunch of random stuff,
yeah. So let's get off of here and let you guys go because we've already went on tangents galore. So thank you again for listening. Appreciate it. We will see you next week with another episode. You guys take care and have a good one. All right. See ya.
Peace.